Let's talk about menopause. What happens in menopause? Well, people get hot flashes, and then they're eventually out of it in 2 or 3 years, and nothing happens. Yeah, 25 years out of date. There are 17 symptoms of menopause. Do I start off with those when I talk to a woman? No. We talk about life and death. What happens in menopause? Estrogen levels and progesterone levels get low. Well, why are they important? Estrogen opens up blood vessels. It's an anti-inflammatory. All aging is inflammation and lack of blood supply, so you age rapidly. So what women are worrying about in menopause is breast cancer. Death rates, 4% in Canadian women. Why aren't they worrying about heart attack and stroke? Because death rates in Canadian women, 54%. 13 times more likely than breast cancer. So we got to change the thinking. 15 years ago, the Women's Health Initiative came out. It was using horse hormones and synthetic progestins and saying, hey, take these hormones. That's all we had 20 years ago, but not 15 years ago. We have since moved on. For 20 years in Canada and 40 years in France, we've had hormones identical to human hormones. So if you run out of gas, replace gas in the tank. If you run out of human estrogen and progesterone, make sure that what you replace is identical to those. So the problems that you see give hormones a bad name are that they link them all together. There's 200 different kinds of estrogen and progesterone and combinations for menopause. They aren't all the same. So you see in the press, there's a study on a hormone. It's a bad hormone, therefore all hormones are bad, therefore nobody should be on hormones. Well, women make hormones for a long while and then they stop. Why would they need them? Like, it's not natural. Well, pneumonia kills 50% of people that don't take antibiotics. Nobody's saying, I'm going to use a natural approach and not take the antibiotics. I'll jump for it. Well, that's not natural. Women come in cars. That's not natural. They wear man-made fibers. That's not natural. They'll take thyroid, they'll take insulin. Why are they picking on estrogen? It's almost like a cult against estrogen. So we've got to throw that away and throw away the idea that we're just treating symptoms, because if you just treat the symptoms, and sometimes people will stop the hormones and they're not too bad, I'll be fine. No, you won't. We're looking at death rates. What can we do about these death rates? So women normally, during their cycle, this is mind-blowing, the amount of estrogen women make for 35 years. At period time, their estrogen level is at 100. Where does it go 2 weeks later? 1,600, and then back down. Now, interestingly, if men go from their estrogen from 100 to 200, they start crying at greeting cards and movies, and they come in complaining, and I said, wait a minute, your wife just hit 1,600, and they go, I should be more sympathetic. Yeah. But that's what hormones do. So they make these levels of hormones, usually from about 12 till about 51, so 35 to 40 years of huge levels of hormones, and then they stop in menopause. And hormones are bad? Wait a minute, you've just had a ton of them for all these years. And so what we're doing is replacing identical hormones to what they're missing, but nature was trying to get you pregnant at this high level. You don't need that to stay healthy. You need about 1/6 the level to stay healthy. And so if we look at what we're doing, all those hormones you made for 35 to 40 years, we would have to use the hormones we're giving you for 210 years to equal the amount you've already made. The other interesting thing we've learned is that average age of menopause is 51. 15 years later, what happens? The clock's ticking towards stroke, heart attack, diabetes, Alzheimer's disease, and the risk of stroke and heart attack after 15 years just goes right up. If you take the ovaries on a 20-year-old girl for cancer or endometriosis, and you're silly enough not to give her estrogen, what happens at 35, 15 years later? That risk of stroke and heart attack goes up at 35, just like it does at 66, and people are going to menopause on their own. It's not how old you are, it's how many years were you without hormones. And that's a critical thing that we know from the people that have been looked after and didn't get hormones. So there's no downside to hormones. Oh, it's going to raise the risk of breast cancer. No, the hormones we're using have been in France 40 years, in Canada 20 years. They're identical human hormones. A study called the E3N study by Fournier, 80,000 French women for 8 years showed a 10% reduction in breast cancer. Heart attack and stroke, 54% of women die in Canada from it, except those in hormones, it drops to 34%. A huge reduction. Think about cholesterol-lowering drugs. You don't feel better. Lots of times you get muscle ache and you feel horrible. What are you doing it for? Not to feel better. You're doing it to save yourself 20 years down the road. What about insulin? That's a nuisance. I got to give it every day. Does it make you feel better? No. Why are you taking it? Reduce a stroke and heart attack 20 years down the road. Estrogen and progesterone. They reduce stroke and heart attack 20 years down the road. Also Alzheimer's disease and bowel cancer and osteoporosis and breast cancer. And you feel better. Seems like a pretty good deal. What about the 17 symptoms? Hot flashes, night sweats, poor memory, poor mood, poor concentration, poor energy, dry vagina, bladder not working well, anxiety and depression triple. It happens to men with low testosterone, the same thing. Low testosterone in men, same as low estrogen in women. So anxiety and depression triple. Well, let's put her on an antidepressant. No, she's got low hormone depression, that won't work. No, we're gonna put her on an antidepressant. We see it every day. What else do you see? Decreased sex drive. So women need estrogen for that. Palpitations of the heart just takes off, it's beating like that. Never did that before. That gets better. Sleep disturbance. Think about the properties of estrogen. What does it do? It opens up blood vessels. So what happens in menopause is those blood vessels shut down, you have a 30% reduction in blood flow to your brain. So think about a computer, 30% less power. There are 26 areas in the brain that are screaming for estrogen and progesterone because they had it for 35 years, now they don't have it. So your new computer has 30% less power and 26 fewer programs to run your life, and you wonder why you have brain fog. That's why you have brain fog. And so we're not just treating symptoms, which we will treat, but the same things lower death rates, and that's the major reason to go on hormones. It's a tiny dose compared to what you made all of those years. And 16,000 women in our practice and women around the world who are on the right hormones are a testament that that's the way to go.